Looking to connect to other Overwatch players just like you? Be in the know with the latest news around the game and the league? You're in the right place. Welcome to Overwatch Recall, connecting you with Overwatch podcasts. With your host, Glen Totemlydrunk Smiddy.
Hello everyone, and welcome back to Overwatch Recall. I am your host, Glen Totemlydrunk Smiddy, and tonight I am sitting down with Kel and Misfit from Overtakes, which is an Overwatch League specific YouTube channel. Kel, Misfit, thank you so much for taking some time out of your busy schedules, seeing as it is holiday time, and we all work retail, so I'm glad that all of us were able to actually sit down and discuss things before we actually get into the actual chaos of this upcoming weekend in the upcoming few days.
Yeah, this weekend's going to be crazy for us, but thanks a lot for having us on and getting us involved with this. We really, I like listening to your stuff too. This is Misfit, by the way. Thanks a lot, and we're pretty appreciative of you're bringing us on and talking about Overwatch League because as we said earlier, we could talk about Overwatch League or Overwatch itself, pretty much all day long.
Yeah,
non-stop.
For sure. This is Kel, and yeah, I'm super excited to be here.
Yeah.
Thanks for having us on. This is really cool, and we love talking about Overwatch. We do it all the time at work. Our bosses hate it, so
Yeah, we've actually at work gotten called into an office because they thought we had a whole thing where it's a weird story. We were bitching about Overwatch, and I'm like, I'm gonna freaking quit the game, and they thought we were just walking out of work. It was hilarious.
No, we're just talking about a video game.
Yeah,
I'm so done with this. I can't deal with it anymore.
Yeah, and that was at season 5 or 6.
Right. Oh boy, that's going back a ways. It's funny too because that's something I deal with at work all the time too, because the sounder on my notifications on my phone is actually the Hanzo ultimate queue. So whenever I get a text or really anything, my phone just screams very loud, and it tilts my coworkers to no end, especially when I get mass emails, and then it doesn't even complete the sounder before it just goes off again.
Yeah, I have the headshot sounder on my notifications. My wife absolutely hates it because it goes off in the middle of the night, and will you get rid of that Overwatch, whatever the hell that sound is?
I love it. Well, anyways, let's jump in and learn a little bit about the content that you guys produce. But first, I want to know, what your gaming background is in regards to Blizzard Entertainment. Has Overwatch been your first foray into the Blizzard family, or have you guys started in some other titles?
Oh, God, I'm old as hell, so I actually played Lost Vikings. I didn't own it. My first actual foray into Blizzard is a weird title for Blizzard fans now. I actually was a big fan of, and I actually still have a couple of copies of it, the NASCAR PC games, and I think it was a PS2 game that Blizzard did. That was my first foray into Blizzard, actually, believe it or not.
That was Rock and Roll Racing, I believe.
Oh no, it was NASCAR Racing.
Okay.
Yeah, it was NASCAR Racing 2002, I think, or 3.
They did one random release of a NASCAR game, the yearly NASCAR game. They did one. It was that one.
Yeah.
Really bizarre, but yeah. For me though, I've been playing Blizzard games, Specs, and StarCraft. I remember we had a couple of computers in my basement. I'd have friends over, and we'd play StarCraft LAN all night. And then I went into Warcraft 3 a little bit, but then I really got sucked in by WoW. I played WoW for 3 years straight, and then off and on for another 4 or 5 years after that. And then Diablo, and I'm a Blizzard sucker. I've played all of them a lot.
I kind of am too, but I got sucked into Diablo 2.
Yeah.
And Warcraft 3 a little bit too. Those are just great games. do a great job with their game. That's why I think we're here now. Honestly.
Absolutely, and I honestly had no idea that they even did a NASCAR game. I learn something new every time I talk to another content creator, so that's fantastic. I'll have to look that up. The more you know. But anyways,
Yeah.
I'm sure you guys got sucked into Overwatch, and it could have been any number of things. It could have just been, a change of pace from the games you were playing, or maybe just the overall look of the cinematic. But what was it about Overwatch that drew you guys towards the new IP for Blizzard Entertainment?
Well, what got me into Overwatch was Kel. It's his fault because we were playing Heroes of the Storm, and I kind of needed a break from. We started working together, and we, started bonding over sports and then video games. And I told him I was playing a lot of SWORDer, and it was getting stale for me. And he's like, try out this new Blizzard game, this Heroes of the Storm. And I played League and that kind of things. I didn't like that, but I liked Heroes of the Storm because it was compact. And so we were playing that a lot. And he asked me one day, he's like, have you checked out this Overwatch, game that's on BlizzardNet or BattleNet? And I said, no, I haven't. And then I looked at the cinematic. And then for me, being an old school gamer, I was a big first person shooter in the early 2000s with Quake and Unreal Tournament, which was still one of my all-time favorite games. And then it brought the element of kind of a comic book world in there with the lore and all that, because I love lore. I like background. I don't like just playing a stale sorry. I just don't like a stale generic kind of experience in a game. So he was already playing. I think it was like about
this is about a month or two.
Yeah,
about 2 months, because I started in August and you started in like October, because it was right when Sombra came out.
Yeah,
and I started right around the time that Anna came out.
Yeah, so what I got into it, and then the first match I played, the first character I tried to play was Zarya. I'm like, oh, this all right, this kind of looks like fun. I didn't realize it was the hardest character at that point in the game to like try and grasp. But I'm like, I love this game. It was like immediately, I love this game. This is so fun.
Yeah.
And it's pretty much been one of the few games that I play right now. I play that, and I played Mountain Blade Warband is the other game I play, which is a whole nother, that's an old game, but people make mods for it. But yeah, that's my experience getting into Overwatch.
Yeah, for me, it's I had been intrigued by it ever since they announced it, when they first initially announced it. And then I just kind of lost interest because I wasn't really into shooters. I had gotten burned out. I was playing Battlefield Bad Company 2. I was playing Battlefield 4. I was playing some of the Call of Duties. I think it was like Modern Warfare 2 and 3. And after that, I was just like, I'm done with shooters. I can't play any of them. So I was playing a lot of Heroes of the Storm, that kind of stuff. And I just still wasn't ready when it first came out. And then I played it on my friend's Xbox when I was visiting him in South Carolina. And I started playing as Zenyatta, and I just instantly fell in love. Just something about it, the way that his projectiles worked, and the way that he worked as a character in general. I just really liked it a lot. And then I went home, and I put it off, and I put it off, and then I finally bought the game, and I've just been sucked in ever since. Countless hours put into this game, between actually playing, watching streamers, watching Overwatch League, all that stuff. Like, this game has its hooks on me. I'm taking a break right now from playing because I've just gotten way too angry lately about it. But
yeah, same thing with me.
So many. I'm also a big Nintendo fan, so I'm playing a lot of Nintendo games at the moment.
Awesome. Well, you guys do focus a lot on Overwatch League, and I know for me, outside of Blizzard, I never really got into like other esports titles. Was it any different for you guys? Like, did you follow other esports scenes like outside of Blizzard, whether it's like League of Legends, CS:GO, anything like that, or was Overwatch League kind of your first foray into that as well?
Well, for me, I kind of jumped into like some of the Heroes of the Storm stuff, like the HGC, and
when it was a thing.
Like, yeah, before they absolutely murdered it. I could go on for an hour about that. I like raged. I should have recorded that.
Oh
anyway.
my God! Right, our conversation after that whole thing was something else.
That was another one we could have got called in the office for work and gotten thinking they were doing something to quit or something like that. But
right.
Yeah, I never really got into CS:GO. I kind of watched a couple. I'm like, I wanted to check it out, and I watched it. I'm like, it's not my thing. But I got injured last year. I hurt myself working out, and I found myself with nothing to do. So I started watching the World Cup, and I was like, hey, this is a good. I never thought, I watch streamers and stuff like that, but I'm like, wow, super competitive Overwatch is awesome.
For me, it was very similar. Like I really didn't watch a whole lot of esports in general. I mean, we're both big sports fans, so like we jumped into it really easily, and just kind of knowing the basics of Overwatch, it was really easy to pick up. But I had really all I experienced was just kind of like watching certain streamers on Twitch play random games here and there, but it usually wasn't anything more than like watching a guy for a little bit. Never anything like super competitive or anything. And he kept telling me about some of these things that were happening in the World Cup, and I was intrigued, so I checked it out, and I was like, "This is really cool." And then we knew the Overwatch League was starting, so we're like, "Let's give this a try." And then once we saw those first preseason games, seeing the finals last year in the World Cup between the U.S. and Korea, like I was hooked immediately with that. Seeing just the back and forth and the domination by some of these players, just incredible. And I was like, I need to see more. And like they're bringing a whole league. Like I'm in. And then we had always been talking about doing a podcast or something along those lines, because we'd spend hours at work just talking to each other about sports and video games and whatever. And like we're like, this is the thing that we got to do. And one day we just did it, and it worked out perfectly because he was home all the time. He learned a lot. Like I mean,
I had to learn how to video edit, which is
right.
something I never thought I'd have to do in my life.
Right. And Misfit, he does so much of the work. Like I feel bad at times. Like all I do is just kind of go over to his house sometimes, and we'll sit down and record, and then he edits it all and puts it up. So I'm trying my best to do more on that end as well.
So basically what you're saying is Misfits is the brains of the operations, and you're just you're doing what you can, and you're trying to make up for some of the legwork. That's very similar to Slambo and myself, because usually I'm the one doing the majority of the work, and then Slambo shows up, sometimes once a month, sometimes it's 2 months differential. So he's trying to be like, you know what? Like I need to do more on the YouTube stuff. I'm like, okay, just do whatever. I'll be happy. It's fine. As long as he's around, I'm happy. But at the end of the day, we are all here covering Overwatch League. So you mentioned that you guys were sitting around watching the preseason ahead of Season 1, and Season 1 began back in January of 2018, which is when you guys launched the channel that you guys are doing for Overtakes. Was there any reason why you guys didn't kind of do a test run during the preseason, or was that just kind of a situation where you wanted to make sure that the Overwatch League at that time, with it being its first look, that it grabbed your attention enough that it made you want to focus on that specifically?
It was kind of that, and it was kind of like because they did the preseason matches in mid-December last year. And then we had the holidays, and what the league started, I think it was like the middle of January. So it was kind of we were talking about it.
Very early January.
And we were like, you know what? Screw it. Let's just do this because we're talking about it enough. Let's just get microphones and start. We'll figure out the rest of the stuff along the way.
Right.
So it was kind of it was just kind of like a kind of an organic thing, to use a stupid word for that. We were just like, let's just do it.
Yeah,
because we're going to talk about it anyway.
We just sat down. We're just like, let's just record and see what happens. And then, because we had kind of watched a few other content creators and gotten an idea of how they do their videos, and we're like, we could probably do that. Just splice together some footage and talk over it, and talk for about 15 minutes. We're like, we can definitely do that. And then some. And yeah, and it just kind of grew from there. And we've kind of, every week, we kind of evolved into different ways of discussing. Like, we originally started, we're like, well, we're going to be like the first takes of, which is the sports show on ESPN. We got Stephen A. Smith and Max Kellerman talking the different sports topics. So we kind of wanted to do the same thing, but it's kind of evolved a little bit differently to more of a talk radio type of thing, like a sports talk radio.
Because we've had a lot of experience at being big sports fans. We listen to a lot of sports talk radio.
Right.
So it's kind of like a comfortable scenario for us to do this in, where we just we throw out topics, and because we don't script our shows, we just kind of like this. We just just go right out there and like, all right, we're going to talk about these matches and let's just go, or whatever topics that are going on that day. Like we did an episode about a Dream Casper and some of the weird stuff that was going on with him and all that. But most of it is just off the cuff, kind of a little outline and just go.
So I know you guys kind of skipped the preseason season 1, and we currently don't know what the preseason is going to be for this upcoming season. There have been some talks about it being a lot closer to the season start as opposed to the inaugural season where it was kind of like a month out from the start. But if it's that close to season 2, are you guys planning on covering the preseason, or are you going to hold off again?
More stuff to talk about. We've been itching to jump back into it for sure.
Yeah, we've been chomping at the bit. We're going to do some before because I think Benchmob, they said Dave at Benchmob was saying the 28th of January to February 3rd, they were going to do some preseason matches. But before that, we're going to do like our breakdowns of, kind of the breakdowns of the divisions and, metas and what teams we like and what teams that we don't like and that kind of thing. And then, we're going to dive into the preseason because we've been waiting for 6 months now?
Yeah, right.
It feels like 6 years. It's been driving me crazy.
Yeah. And what's crazy is, too, like, even going into the new season, you can even just do episodes based on a specific storyline to kind of keep an eye on, and you can just base it on whatever team. There's just so much you can actually kind of revolve topics around right now, even if there's, like, a lull in the off-season period, because, we've already seen most of the sign-ins happening. We still don't know where a couple of people are, like, say Beast Halo from Fusion University. Like we don't know.
It seems like if he's somewhere doing something. He's got to be.
Who knows at this point? It could be anything, or maybe he's gonna retire. You never know. I have no idea, but there have been some links that he will actually go to the Fusion. Whether or not that's going to be the case, we still do not know. But when it comes to Overtakes, you guys basically put out like these usually like 20-minute videos on a weekly basis. Who do you think, or who do you feel would be your core audience? Who are you guys trying to reach with your videos?
Well, I think we're trying to reach the people that are into Overwatch League, and our main goal is to have a place for everyone to talk about it, kind of like me and Cal do, like just to come in, like whether they're hardcore fans, they know all the players from when they were in Contenders, or they're just new to the Overwatch League or Overwatch in general, and they just want to talk about this. Like, we talk about sports all the time, and to us this is it's an esport, but it works in the same way as the regular sport does, and we talk about it the same way. For us it's just bringing it to people to get them to interact more, I guess, other than just like memeing. You know what I mean?
Like we wanted to talk about it like fans. Like because we are fans, we wanted to talk about it with other fans and just kind of discuss it in that sense. Like, because we're not insiders or anything like that. But I mean, there's definitely room for this kind of content where you're just fans that are talking about what's happening in the league and the big stories and just kind of having a discussion about it. And that's our whole goal.
There's kind of been this vocal minority that are like, why are you guys talking about this when you're not experts? And I really hate when people use that, because we're all here because we love not only the game but the esports aspect of it. You know, you feel connected to, you know, whether it's a coach, a player, multiple teams, what have you. So at the end of the day, it doesn't matter if you're a pro player, if you're just a fan. Anyone can go out and make content. It's just a matter of just record it. Like, that's all you really need to do. Like, you guys yourselves, you know, you felt like you had something to say, and you guys have basically produced consistent content ever since then, and that's absolutely fantastic. So looking at your channel, just to get a little bit of a background, how many uploads do you guys usually do in a week? Does that kind of like fluctuate at all if there is, say, like heavier news in that week?
Off-season wise, yeah. We if there's a lot of news going on, we'll upload, you know, probably 3 in the off-season. I mean, some lately we've been doing 2 because we're kind of in this lull.
Yeah.
And there's not much going on, but
once or twice a week the past month or two, just because there hasn't been all that much to talk about. Like, we didn't want to do the whole speculating and just constantly talking in circles about the same subjects. And like, is this true? Is this not true? Is this what this team is going to be? We don't know. Like, nothing has been solid enough. And there's definitely a lack of that. So
yeah,
we were
trying to be more reactionary, I guess, because we're not insiders. And honestly, for me, the whole, like, creating content with drama that, you know, streamers are having, that's not our thing. I watch it all the time. I watch, you know, Michael and other guys that do all that kind of stuff, and it's great. It's just not where we're comfortable doing our content.
Yeah.
So you're not there for the clickbait.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's not really our thing. I mean, and obviously that's one thing that's kind of a detriment to us, but at the same point, we hope that that's something that can differentiate us in the future.
Yeah, and you know, clickbait's fine. I mean, I click on it, so it obviously works.
Right.
But you know, as long as you put XQC in the title, you'll get at least 100 views without even, you know, blinking an eye. And also, like, during the season, we up it a lot, because last year we were doing we did like a couple in the beginning of the week doing some previews, and then we started doing middle of the week, you know, we do like a Thursday show, and we do like a Friday, Saturday one, and you know, we get picks and that kind of thing, kind of like you would get like on like NFL Today or
right,
one of those kind of shows where, you know, we're just talking about what's going on once the season started. And that's going to be pretty much what we're going to be doing. But we're actually looking at we're talking about doing a talk show, a Monday talk show, kind of a Monday morning quarterback kind of thing. It's in the works. We're trying to figure out exactly how we want to do it, but it's kind of a Twitch thing where we, you know, get everybody involved. You know, we talk about the weekend's events, and we're still going to do our content as well, but we wanted to do kind of a live thing and get everybody interacting with each other about the league. I mean, that's kind of like our goal. We just want to talk about it.
Yeah, sounds awesome. I cannot wait for that to get underway. But yeah, I definitely expect a lot of content creators to really ramp up the production of what they're doing. And I'm happy to know that they are kind of shifting to that Thursday through Sunday schedule. So, you know, midweek it doesn't conflict with, you know, other stuff I have going on the content creation side. So that's always the big plus, because then it means I can actually focus on watching the games and just focus on content that all of us are producing. But let's go ahead and jump into some current topics. So something that a lot of content creators have been doing here very recently was they've started to kind of do their early rankings for the Overwatch League teams, both the expansion teams, you know, the alum teams, you know, the Season 1 teams, and then kind of overall. And, you know, some people are doing it differently where they're breaking it up based on when they came into the league, or they just start overall right off the bat. So that's what I want to do with you guys right now. I want to talk a little bit about the expansion teams to start. So we have 8 new expansion teams that have joined for Season 2, a lot of which are in China and have very similar names, which are going to get butchered time and time again until I don't think that's going to change. I mean, we've seen Brigida, and no one can seem to agree on how it's said, even in Overwatch League production, because everyone says it a different way. So I'm expecting more of the same in regards to that. But when it comes to these expansion teams, I want you guys to talk about who you feel like would be the 3 standout teams in your minds.
Well, for me, first, I'm going to go with Vancouver. I mean, obviously, they have the runaway lineup, pretty much the runaway lineup, I guess. That would be my top expansion team, I think. I would go with probably next in line Paris, because they have a solid lineup, and they have the one thing I like is that they have guys that were in the league before, and that's going to be big for some of these teams, I think. And then I'm going to go Atlanta as probably my top 3. Just I like DeFran. I think if he doesn't get suspended for whatever DeFran does on a daily basis, I think that's going to add a lot to their team. It depends on the meta too, but he can pick up heroes pretty easily and stuff like that. But those are my top 3.
Yeah, I'm pretty similar. I don't really have a particular order of who I think is going to be the top tier. I think all these teams have a lot of potential, but it'll be tough to know exactly how good they're going to be until we see them all together, see the cohesion that they have. So I had Toronto, Vancouver, and Atlanta. I really think that I'm very high on Toronto's team. I think they've got a really, really nice built team. They've got a lot of flexibility with the players that they have. And I'm just really excited to see what they can do. And then obviously the same things with Vancouver having run away, and then Atlanta. I feel like they have the potential to kind of do what Philly did last year, where you're like, what is this like mishmash of all these different nationalities and different play styles and just different players in general, but they're all really, really good, and then putting them all on the same team and kind of seeing what happens. I feel like they definitely have that potential.
They also have the potential to be. They also have the potential to be season 1 Dallas.
Exactly. Well. Right. They're either going to be top tier or they're going to be bottom of the barrel. Like everyone is just.
And then you just start raging.
Yeah.
I start raging when teams that have that much talent. I lose my mind.
Right.
If they start losing, it just, why are you losing? I don't understand. Anyway.
I can completely
that's a whole
understand that. For me, like, I am a huge Runaway fan. I'm completely biased, so of course I feel like they're gonna be the standout team.
Yeah.
Plus, they did pick up Repel, so they have another addition. And what I like about Runaway outside of just the history is just the fact that going in, when it comes to some of these core rosters in the Overwatch League from Season 1, Runaways actually already face a large portion of players that are already in the Overwatch League, whether it is just individual players or like these core 3 or 4 players on specific rosters. So I feel like that is going to actually give them an advantage that some other teams didn't quite have. But I do find the Toronto pick pretty interesting because for the most part, it feels like not that many people out there are feeling super high on Toronto right now. And that might just be shade from the similar color schemes between Toronto and Atlanta. Maybe people are just holding grudges. I don't know. But looking at these inaugural season teams, so the original 12s, we've had some major shakeups and restructures with Florida Mayhem, with Shanghai Dragons, who basically went out and signed a good chunk of the Kontu Panthera squad that were the runner-ups who lost to Runaway in an epic 8-map series in Contenders Korea Season 2 this past season. And then you also have some teams that really didn't make any changes at all, kind of like the Valiant, who really only lost soon, but they basically kept all the other pieces. Right, and you also have teams that either went out for a trade, they stockpiled DPS like the Shock and the Fuel, so the
Shock think, I think the Shock think we're running no limits because they have 9 Tracer players.
Right.
Anyway, that's my take on the Shock.
It's a curious strategy. I don't know how it's going to play out. It could just be a repeat of Season 1 for that matter. But when it comes to these original 12 teams, we're gonna do the same thing. Who do you feel like will be at the top 3 standouts in your mind? And I'm sure all of you are going to say London Spitfire and New York, because that seems to be the go-to for everyone.
Yeah.
Yeah, that is for both of us. It is our top 2 at least, and then we kind of differ on the third.
Yeah, third. It's hard. I kind of, for me, 3. I'm either looking at Philly or the Gladiators. I just like Philadelphia's core roster and the way they played it towards the end of last year. I mean, it's like everything started coming together exactly the way they planned it. And I think going into this season, I think it's going to be much of the same as it was towards the end of last year. Meta dependent, of course, which is, you could say, for every team except for maybe London, to me.
See, I mean, I definitely got to go with London and New York again, because, I mean, London didn't gain anybody, but they didn't lose anybody, and they still have one of the best rosters in all of the league, I feel like. Just having Profit in general, and then having all of the people around him that they have, and the way the Gesture ended the season, if he can keep that up, they're going to absolutely be a top-tier team. Just with those 2 alone, I feel like could carry just about any team to a very deep playoff run. And then New York only got better by adding Flower. And then and then you still got Jaehong. You still have the best.
Jonak, you mean?
Or Jonak. Yeah, Jonak and Ark. You still have the best support duo in the entire league. You still have Mono and Meko. Like, they're a really, really crazy good team. But my third team is the Gladiators. I was really high on them last year. I really think they could have done a lot had the whole Fissure thing not gone south. But by them picking up, of course his name is escaping me, but the tank that they just picked up, Roar. I feel like is going to absolutely, they're just going to roll, and it's just going to be a pickup, be absolutely seamless, and they're going to look exactly like they did with Fissure. Possibly even
Plus,
better.
they have the extra firepower of Decay, which I'm really excited about.
Yeah, I was just going to say Decay is a big pickup too.
And pairing Decay with Surefour is going to be absolutely disgusting.
Or even if they run some kind of triple DPS or anything like that, they're going to be scary.
I do just want to make note. You mentioned Flower, and when we look at what he recently did on Excel 2 Academy, Flower, I'm going to put this as blunt as possible. He basically shit the bed in contenders. He did not perform at all. So I'm really hoping that is not what Flower we're going to see in the Overwatch League, just because after the World Cup of yesteryear, he basically had this huge Widowmaker clinic on display on Hanamura against the United States team, and then he just kind of went quiet after that. And it doesn't matter how many times he changes his name between Flower and Nanohana. At the end of the day, when you're on the big stage, you need to be able to perform, and we just did not get to see that at the contenders level. So for me, I am a little worried, at least with how Flower is going to do, especially knowing that Nene basically just overshadowed him every step of the way in contenders. So I'm hoping nothing but the best for Flower. But New York is in this really weird position where that's another team that has a lot of DPS players. There is a ton of overlap in the hero pools as well. So I just wanted to figure out whether or not Nene's going to maybe go back to Zarya because he used to play that role in the past, or what they're going to do. So there's a lot of great pieces still on the team, and obviously Jonak is going to continue to just frag out and kind of set the standard for all flex supports in the league, just like it did last year. But who knows? Maybe Curlin from the Spitfire is going to be the next Jonak in Waden. You never know, because he's a complete unknown as well, just like Jonak was going into Season 1.
Yeah, exactly. Absolutely. And I think with Flower, I think there was some of that I don't know, arrogance, or it's kind of like the senior on a college football team that knows he's going to get drafted number 1 and just kind of goes through the motions. Like, he kind of had that vibe. Like when I watched him, he was, some of the matches that he was in contenders, it was kind of I don't want to call it soft throwing, but somewhere in that, I'm going in the league anyway. I'm just kind of playing because I have to right now here.
Yeah.
And it's kind of what I'm hoping was going on, sort of. I don't want anyone with that kind of an attitude on my team, but do you see where I'm going with that? I think that's what some of the thing with Flower that was going on and Contenders. At least that I felt that way when I was watching him.
I do understand the hesitancy, and because I did go all out about them picking him up, I feel like with him, if anyone's going to get the most out of him, it's going to be the New York coaches. I mean, that's what I really think is going to be that's their strongest suit, just their ability to get so much out of their players, and then having I really don't think we're going to see much of Sabiobi at all this year. He's basically, I'm feeling like he's going to be a coach, like a player coach at this point.
Unless Tracer comes back in the meta, but
right. But I feel like his presence though, and his professionalism, and just the way he carries himself, it really goes a long way. And I think that's the biggest reason he's going to be sticking around. And they just want the younger guys to pick up on that and hopefully take up that same attitude.
All right, well, moving on. We are in that off-season lull period right now, but there's been a lot of rumors kind of going around about incoming suspensions for the Overwatch League. Now, looking back at Season 1, there were a couple of players in particular that, kind of got some short suspensions. In one case, it was 30 games, which was quite a substantial amount of time, and there's a lot of uncertainty about whether or not certain players that were signed are going to be receiving suspensions from the Overwatch League office, because at the time when they were boosting, that punishment wasn't actually handed down by Blizzard in some cases. So for example, you have BQB, who was on X6 Gaming, who was picked up by the Florida Mayhem. He was promoting boosting services, and it was X6 Gaming that basically had him sit out for an entire season of Contenders Korea. I know Happy has also been linked to boosting. The Fran is probably another big question mark, so we really don't know how exactly this is all going to shake out, or if they're just going to say, you know what, if you're caught doing this specific thing after a date, whatever that may be, then maybe that's how they kind of go about doing it. But do you feel like with how prominent boosting has been, with a lot of these off-season players getting signed from Contenders, that it's going to have this huge impact on kind of just the landscape of the league going into the new season?
I kind of think it might. I'm kind of with from this point, if you get caught boosting, then you're going to get suspended. Like, stuff in the, a year or 2 years in the past, we're not going to do too much about it. I think they're not looking at it that way. They just want to get rid of the problem. But I think some of these guys, like we already saw Boston cut Funny Astro for, I believe it was boosting issues. And then, BQB. And then, we had last year, we had a couple of guys getting, OGE and Hotba. The main tank for Philly. Oh, Sato. Yeah, that's right. I forgot his name every time we record.
It's okay. I'm here to cover
every freaking time. But I think it's kind of like the steroid problem they had in the baseball late 90s, early 2000s. They didn't do the cutoff. All right, from right now on, I don't care what you did last year or the year before that. From now to the end of time, if you get caught, anyone says you've done anything from this date on, you're suspended. They didn't do that in baseball, and it just turned into this whole accusations. And then, well, we have to suspend this guy because it's all over the news, and it's looking bad on us. I think they're trying to get rid of it's looking bad on our league and what we're doing, instead of just kind of creating a stopping point and saying, all right, from now on, no.
Yeah, I'm thinking that there's going to be suspensions, but I don't think it's going to be like this sweeping thing where you're having half of the teams have a suspended team member. I'm feeling like it's going to be, they're going to zero in on one or two guys that were maybe doing a little more similar to the OGE situation last year, where he had such a long suspension because he was running a site. So if there is anybody like that, I feel like they're going to make an example of that person, be like, this is what happens if you do that. This is also what's going to happen if you're caught doing this again, type of thing. But at the same point, it is one of those things where it's like a lot of these guys, when they're playing this game this much, they use it as a way to make money, and it does point them needing to fix the tier 2 thing and fix contenders and just the way that all of that goes. And I'm hoping that with some of the changes that they've been making there across Blizzard in general, that they're going to use some of their resources to focus more on that and building up the tier 2, tier 3, and just making it easier, making that path to pro a real thing instead of just the kind of like mishmash thing that you got to go through.
Yeah, it's basically now. Like, here, have some BlizzBucks, and you live off of that, and it's right. Just there's no way for some regions to have a sustainable future in Overwatch because of it, just with how the infrastructure is currently set in place. But 2019 is bringing in quite a bit of changes, which can be a whole nother topic for another day. Let's talk a little bit about some of these upcoming changes for Season 2 of the Overwatch League. So first up, we did get the announcement of Road Games on Watchpoint when they did their season preview, and a couple days after that, we did get some details on that. So we do know that there are going to be 3 weekends during Season 2 where the Overwatch League is going to be taking things on the road. You have games that are basically going to be hosted in Dallas, Atlanta, and Los Angeles for the Valiant. Now, I've been browsing Twitter and Reddit, as I'm sure all of us do, and a lot of people just looked at LA being on here and were just beside themselves. Ugh, why is Blizzard bringing it to the Valiant Stadium when all the games are already based at Blizzard Los Angeles?
Well, they never have driven in Los Angeles, so they don't understand that if you put it on the other side of Los Angeles, that's like a 6-hour drive. So I thought that was a little weird. I thought they would put it like you're in Chicago and we're in Cleveland. I thought they would kind of maybe, I know there's not a team here, but I would like to see kind of like the NFL does with the London games, like bring it to areas that, like Chicago, where they don't have a team, and like build up some kind of fan base. But I do like the fact they're going to Dallas, Atlanta. I thought maybe New York would be a good place to go, or Philly, but I think it's going to be fantastic. I mean, we were trying to figure out, we're like, if they only had it in Toronto, because we're like 3 hours away or 4 hours away, we could just drive up there and, go up there for the weekend. I think it's going to be great for those fan bases. It's going to show us exactly what's going to happen when, we get these promised, everybody gets road game, has a home stadium and all that kind of stuff. Now, I mean, we saw it even in the World Cup, like Paris was like unbelievable. I can't wait to see like them have some league games there. That's going to be like a severe home field advantage.
Yeah, no kidding. I'm super excited too. I obviously with the LA thing, I think it's just more of a formality than anything. They're going to be like, okay, this weekend is them at home, so they're going to do all the things that they would do for their normal home game. They're going to have, basically, it's going to be very biased towards the Valiant for that weekend. So I get it in that sense. To call it that is kind of a little bit of a stretch, but whatever. You guys they gotta stretch it a little bit. So I understand it. I love that they're doing Dallas and Atlanta, though. I feel like Dallas is going to be a really awesome one. I feel like that's probably going to be the one that's the biggest turnout and just has the real feel of like a real home field advantage for that team. And then I feel like they're going to pull no punches. They're going to go all out, just doing everything they can to hype it up and really make it an awesome experience.
I'm really hoping that at some point Chicago does get a team, or if not, maybe we get the finals here. It does irritate me a little bit that the closest team to me, because I am from Chicago, is Toronto. Like, that's a Midwest representation, right, and it does not make you feel good in the slightest. But what I am happy about is, in Season 2, we are expanding the map pool per stage, so we are going up to 12 maps per stage, which I am happy about. So Looking at the Stage 1 map pool, we have Busan, Ilios, and Nepal for the control maps. We have Hollywood, Kings Row, and Numbani for hybrid. We have Temple of Anubis, Horizon, Lunar Colony, and Volskaya Industries for the assault maps. And then for escort, we have Rialto, Dorado, and Route 66. So, I, like most people, am not a fan of assault maps. So it really doesn't matter, like, what ones you pick out of the lot. Those are still probably the hardest maps to actually watch in the game for various reasons. I honestly probably would have preferred Hanamura to be in the map pool for that, just because we have kind of seen the rise of like Mei defense being played, and then having like Wrecking Ball, Hanzo, Pharah attack.
Yeah, they do a lot more stuff. My favorite one of the bunch that they have in there for assault, I like Anubis. I just kind of I like doing the weird stuff with like Orisa. I like seeing Orisa and like doing different things like that. And then, Reaper, you bring Reaper in sometimes on point 2 on that. I love the 12 map pool. I think with the less games, it can expand the map pool, because before you had to focus on what was it, 10 games a stage. They kind of had to keep the map pools a little smaller. I like the bigger map pool myself. They can play escort maps all day long for me, and hybrid maps, and then get rid of the other ones, and I'll be fine.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. I love the bigger map pool. I think it's just going to bring a lot more variety, because it did get tiresome, because there would be times where you would literally see the same 4 maps get played in the span of a week. You would get all of them played at least 2 or 3 times over the course of however many games were played in a week, and you're just like, oh my god, we got to watch this map again. And I
cannot watch Horizon Lunar Colony one more time. Please, God, stop.
Especially with the King of the Hill maps, just because they are the tiebreaker, and I get it, but seeing like so many times where you're just like, oh my god, we have to sit through another Lijiang Tower, another Ilios, or any of those, and you're just like, oh, again with this.
Yeah, I think it's gonna make it a little more. It's gonna freshen it up a little bit. You're gonna have a little bit more variety.
Right, and then it's got the best map in the game, Kings Row, which I always love watching these guys play on, because the strategy between points always changes. There's so many different ways that you go. That's where we got that phenomenal play from the Gladiators in the playoffs last year. Because there's just so much variety. It's probably the pinnacle of the map making that Blizzard has made in this game.
It's also been the staple of competitive Overwatch maps too, because that was like one of the OG maps that we would see even all the way back in beta as like the benchmark for a lot of these teams, just due to the fact that like the team compositions is always kind of evolving point to point, which isn't always the case on some of these other maps. So one of the other changes that we are seeing is to the season playoffs. So we know not only are they doing a play-in tournament to qualify for the season playoffs after stage 4, and that would be between like the 7th through 12th place teams. We also have the season playoffs go into double elimination. So we will have a winner's bracket, we'll have the loser's bracket. So let's say there's a huge upset, a team like New York, if they completely choke, or just are so arrogant that they just don't want to play what the meta is, or like the meta doesn't affect them, they still might be able to make a run. But it does kind of bring in that Cinderella type story where it adds, a little bit more possibilities of what we might see. How do you guys feel about double elimination being introduced to the playoffs?
I like it myself. I like that, you had a bad series like the Gladiators last year. If you take, for example, you had the Gladiators without Fissure, and they had to bring in iRemix. That kind of threw them off. They might have been able to, in a double elimination, they might have been able to kind of get it back together and, put together the pieces and, maybe make a run to actually go where they should have gone. But, it was a single elimination and they couldn't. So, I mean, I like that. I love the tournament aspect for the 7 through 12 as well. I think that's going to add, you could get like, at some point, you could get like the 10th place team wins that, gets into the losers bracket, and then maybe crawls out of that and, by some miracle wins. I think it'll be fantastic.
Yeah, I think the biggest reason I'm most excited about it is just more games, more playoff games, more games that really truly mean something. Like the regular season is great, and there's a lot of things that happen, but and there's a lot of things at stake. But when you get those playoff games, like it's just a whole nother level. And these guys are really competing hard. And to have that time where it's like, okay, we had a one really bad game. Maybe we can turn this into something else and just use that as fuel to bring yourself back from the brink. And just having that level to it, I think just adds a lot more. And then having so many more games, because it really felt like the last year's playoffs, while they were fun, it was lacking some, and it didn't feel like there was quite enough. Too. Yeah, the break was a little long, and then just in general, it was like, okay, those 2 games are over. All right, we got to wait another week, and then we play a couple more games, and like having the eliminations the way it was like, okay, that ended already. Cool.
Yeah, hopefully now people will actually know when the playoffs are going on too, because there was a little bit of that going on as well.
I was losing I think we had a whole thing with that. We did an episode where we were just like, what exactly is going on here?
Yeah.
And a lot of that just boils down to the social media presence or lack thereof.
Yeah.
Yes, no kidding. That's something we've been saying. It's something we've been saying with the league since we started recording, was just there just needs to be a lot more transparency in general across the board, whether it's events that are happening. There just needs to be more advertising, more presence for these things, and then telling us more about what's happening, stuff in general.
I mean, they do a little bit, but like I said, most of it's, Saya player 5-kill Widowmaker, essentially Reddit clips, look at me things, and or Carpe or whatever they want to do, and maybe a couple of event things that they like to do, these big release things instead of just like a normal league. Just like, all right, we want to be a normal sports league. Let's just, here's the schedule. The playoffs start this date, this date, this date. The finals are in New York. Here you go. They got to learn how to do that a little bit more, I think.
Yeah,
absolutely. So looking ahead, there are some pretty big marquee matches that are happening not only in the opening week for Season 2, but basically across the entire year, as we do have the release of the Season 2 schedule. So, no surprise, we are kicking off with a rematch of the first finals, which will pit Philadelphia Fusion going up against the London Spitfire. We also have basically what is a Contenders Korea rematch between Runaway and Kondu Panthera when Vancouver Titans go up against the new look Shanghai Dragons, which I'm pretty excited to see. But out of the lot of the season, is there any particular series that you're looking forward to more so than some of the others?
Very first day is the Gladiators versus Seoul. That's the one that is circled on my calendar.
Mine too.
I cannot wait to see that. The team that Fissure went to versus the team that he left, and just the tension that's been going on between those two teams in general. I'm so excited to see some of that. Like, because we love rivalries, like being regular sports fans, like having those rivalries, Lakers, Celtics, that kind of stuff. Just to have that in this league is something we've been really chomping at the bit for.
I actually, that's one of the ones I have circled, and I want to watch. I like watching New York and London play, but also, like you said, Vancouver and the Spark. Although it might really hurt your eyes to watch that from the colors aspect, but it's gonna be great Overwatch. I like when these teams get together that had rivalries, especially rivalries in the past too. Like from mostly it ends up being from Korea contenders, but and they go at it. It's just the matches are 9 times out of 10 going to be great. And I'm also looking at Shanghai as well, but Dallas and Houston, I think, is going to be a lot more interesting this year than it was last year. I think they're going to actually take that rivalry to a new level, because you got Effect back, who he likes to get riled up when he plays, which is awesome in and of itself. And just the smack talk he was doing last year, a little bit of it like on on Twitter and stuff with Houston was great, and I just want that to be bigger for me. I mean, and then of course, actually, I'm also liking the All-Star game in the middle of the year too. That's kind of something that is, as far as the season goes, sticking it in the middle, giving that nice little break in the middle for everybody to like kind of get rejuvenated is going to be great.
Rather than having it at the end of the year when a lot of people are already burnt out through the schedule.
Yeah,
right.
And
exactly. And then trying to gear up for like to basically the very next week. You're like, oh, hey guys, we got to play a World Cup game.
Yeah, a lot of short.
I had to fly to France or whatever. Yeah, and now this is an interesting thing. Now with the way this, I'm just throwing this out there to you too. With the way where the season is going to end, it's probably going to end somewhere like in October, like at post playoffs and everything. Do you think they're going to do a condensed version of the World Cup, or do you think we're going to not see that again?
Well, that's the thing. Like, I remember Jane tweeted something out that it was a rumor that they lost funding for the World Cup. I don't know if there's any truth to that.
Oh, wow.
So I don't want to say like yes or no. It's going to be a sure thing.
Yeah. Because it feels like it's kind of going away a little bit. You know what I mean? Like looking at how they moved the Overwatch League schedule to where it ends compared to obviously BlizzCon is where you have the finals of the World Cup. So I'm just, unless you just condense it down, which also could be good too, because then, you know, you have like matches 4 weeks in a row into BlizzCon and it's just condensed. I don't know. Maybe they're not going to do it at all.
The Stage 4 ends on July 30th. So I don't think there's going to be too much overlap there. There should be plenty of time, even if they are doing double elim.
Yeah. Actually, I thought I saw that it ends on August 25th after Stage 4. I think Stage 3 might end on January 30th, and Stage 4 ends on August.
GG is wrong. Who knows? Anything could happen at this point.
Yeah. Well, the Overwatch League stats and information on their site is kind of lacking.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay. I'm on the Overwatch League site. Yes. August 25th is the end of Stage 4. Okay. So there's misinformation on over.gg. I will stop using that for it.
Okay.
So that's an interesting question then. I would imagine like maybe the playoffs then would be like a month period. I would imagine.
Yeah. So it would take in early October. And then you have BlizzCon, usually November 1st, 2nd, 3rd, somewhere in that range. Yeah, so it's either going to be condensed or non-existent, I'm assuming.
Well, we'll tackle that once we get a little bit closer.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah,
Sure.
We're not going to start throwing things out there for people to start.
There's already enough panic going on with HGC. We don't need to prolong that into Overwatch World Cup or anything in our scene. For that matter. But anyways, Misfit and Kel, thank you so much for taking some time to talk to me about Overtakes. I greatly appreciate that. So before I let you guys go, why don't you let our listeners know where they can reach you guys, both on social media, over on YouTube, all of that good stuff.
Okay, on our social media sites, YouTube, it's going to be Overtakes OWL. It's going to be that on Twitter as well. We also have a Discord channel that we haven't really done much with last season, but we're going to start doing a lot more with it. Also, that's Overtake OWL. Overtake, not Overtakes. That was our initial name, and then we added the S. So, because it sounded like we were trying to do some kind of castle siege or something like that. So,
so you're the ones that were storming the castle. Okay.
Wrong. Yeah, we the wrong game genre. So anyway, so those are our two main. Our main is Twitter. I'm on there a lot. I yap, and I'm the main person throwing all the ridiculous crap out on Twitter. That's usually my take.
Yeah, I'll throw the occasional thing out on Twitter, but
it's usually more thought out, Kel's, than mine. Mine's reactionary bullshit normally.
But you get way more likes than I do, so I let you kind of go from there. You bring way more attention to us.
Yeah, but our main channel is Overtakes on Overtakes OWL on YouTube, and then we do have a Twitch site. That is, there are going to be links to that on our YouTube channel. I forget like exactly what the name is because we had to do underscores and all that kind of, all that kind of thing. But if you go on our YouTube channel, it has links to all of our social media. I have a Facebook page, but because I'm old, I did the Facebook thing, and it doesn't really. We don't do too much on there because most of our fan base and our friends that are into Overwatch don't go on there. So we do post stuff on there. It's just not as frequent.
Yeah, YouTube is pretty much the best place to catch us, though.
Yeah,
YouTube and Twitter. So catch us on there.
Sure. All right, well, sounds good. Well, thank you again to both of you for coming on for this interview. I greatly appreciate that, and I look forward to watching and listening more as we ramp up towards Season 2 of the Overwatch League.
Oh, definitely. Thanks a lot for having us on, man. It was great. It was fun to talk, some Overwatch League and, Overwatch in general with some people. That's what we like to do. I mean, we do that all day long. If you ever want to, pop in on our channel, or you want to have us on again, we're more than into it. So just
sure.
Contact us.
Yeah, thanks so much for having us. We really appreciate it, man.
Thanks so much for listening to this episode of Overwatch Recall with Glen, Totemlydrunk, Smiddy. For more great content and to stay up to date, visit OWLNshow.com and on Twitter @OWRecall. We'll catch you next time.